Hello, welcome to Oxford Heirlooms. In this video, we're going to begin to work on the back of the day gown. So I have temporarily set my two front pieces off to the side. Now we have a center back tuck that we need to sew in here. So let me get my pins out of my pattern piece. And I'll set my pattern piece off to the side. I've already marked with my blue fabric marking pen the top and bottom of the pleat, or the tuck that we need to sew in here. Okay, now just so that I sew in a straight line, I'm going to use my little drafting triangle and my friction erasable pen, and I'm going to draw a line between the two dots. You know what, I think I'm going to draw it over here on this side because I'm going to sew from this side. I'm not going to start up at the top of the fabric. I'm going to start at the bottom of the pleat. Okay, so let's go over here to the sewing machine. I've got my white thread in. I'm set to a straight stitch. And I'm going to come here to the bottom blue dot, drop my needle to make sure that I'm right on the line that I drew. Then I'll go forward and backward a couple of stitches just to tack that tuck into place. And I'll go forward and back up at the top to tack it into place also. Clip my threads. Now I need to go to the ironing board and I need to press this tuck open. I need to open it up at the center top and press it open. Let's see if I can do that. Like that. And then I'll come back and I'll baste across the top of the tuck. So I'm going to the ironing board and I'll be right back. Okay, I've been to the ironing board and I pressed that pleat open. Now I'm going to baste it into place at about 1/8 of an inch away from the top edge of the neck hole opening. Just to keep it from moving around. There. Trim my threads. Okay, all right, now the next thing I'm going to do, let's see if I can zoom out a little bit. I'm going to lay my back piece out and I'm going to bring my front pieces over and I'm going to pin. I want to do a French seam, so I have to pin the wrong sides together. I'm going to make French seams up at the shoulders. Now this particular pattern has a 3/8 of an inch seam allowance. So I need to do the first pass of my French seam at about 1/16 of an inch. And the second pass at about, once it folds, it'll be at about 1/8 of an inch. Let me get both of them pinned because I have been known to sew my French seams backwards. So I'm always real careful to remember when you do the first pass, you put the wrong sides together. And when you do the second pass, you've got the right sides together. Okay, I'm pinning this since this little shoulder seam is cut a little bit on a diagonal. It's got a little bit of bias stretch to it. Okay, so let's do the first pass of the French seam on both of the shoulder seams. And I'll take my pins out as I come to them. I have to be careful that my pleats stay pointing in the right direction. Because the pleats actually are going to go right up into the shoulder seam. Let's do the other shoulder seam. Okay, all right, now I need to go to the ironing board and press my seams toward one side. So I'll be right back. Let me clip my threads. Okay, I've been to the ironing board and I've pressed my seams to one side and then I press them over on themselves. So one at a time, let me sew the second pass of my French seam. And I'm going to keep this at about 1/8 of an inch or like a scant 1/4 of an inch, maybe 3/16 of an inch. Just keep these seams pretty small. You can see the original seam of the batiste through the fabric. So just sew real close to the edge of the first seam. And that makes for a tiny little French seam. See? Okay, now I need to sew the other little shoulder seam, and then I'll go to the ironing board and I will press my seams towards the back of the day gown. So I'll be right back. Okay, so I've been to the ironing board and I've got my tiny little French seams pressed towards the back of the garment. Now in the next video, we'll put the little neckband on around the neck hole opening. Okay, but in this video, we were creating the back pleat and sewing the French seams at the two shoulders. Thank you.